Hey there, Dr. Rika here with part 2 of the 4 words you should never hear your doctor say. Your labs are normal. Last week I went over laboratory studies that involve some metabolic functions such as your glucose and insulin, and I'm going to expand. So one of the common lab tests that doctors run is something called a Complete Metabolic Panel, so CMP. And within that panel, there are several things that get overlooked and that I truthfully overlooked until I came upon functional medicine. So the first one again is going to be glucose. So this was off of a young lady who was healthy and had no medical problems, believe it or not. So her level was 91. And to repeat, if you didn't hear the last video, is that 91 is approaching pre-diabetic range. So 100 and over is pre-diabetic. And optimal would be under 75. So to me, that says one of two things: that person is ingesting too high of a carbohydrate load for their body, or perhaps they're not able to break down the glucose and get it in the cells. And you'll find out about that in a little bit here. The second thing we see is something called alkaline phosphatase. Oftentimes this value will come down, not that it's abnormal, but low normal at say 50. So this young lady was down at 50. You want a robust value of something over 85, maybe even 90. Low values like this can signify a zinc deficiency. This can sometimes be hallmarked by seeing zinc spots in the nails, but you sometimes don't see those. In children, the alkaline phosphatase is oftentimes going to be elevated because of rapid bone turnover, so that could mask a zinc deficiency. So in kids, I would actually measure zinc levels. I do anyway in almost everyone. But this subtly, two things are abnormal in this person's labs, but they've seen their regular doctor and the doctor says nothing is wrong. The last two, ALT and AST, are markers of liver function, so they're measures of liver enzymes. And so both of these were up at the upper limits of normal. So in someone who's under 30, and actually if you're under 65, a preferred value is 15 to 20. So what does that mean when you're up here at 31, just a point away from the upper limit of normal, or 40? That means a couple things: that the carbohydrate load is too high on the liver, and what we're seeing these days is something called fatty liver. The second thing I think about is that there's too high of a burden on the liver. Remember, our liver detoxifies us. So it says, what has been the lifetime exposure of chemicals, toxic environment chemicals on our body? So indeed, there were two influences seen on this young person, and one was the carb load was too high, even though she ate a quote-unquote healthy diet. She actually exercised 4 to 5 times a week. The other thing was the liver functions were high because she had an exposure to benzene that we later discovered, which was an occupational hazard. So we talked about ways to help her body detoxify, and if you can avoid, of course we avoid. So I hope you enjoyed part 2 of the 4 words you should never hear your doctor say. Your labs are normal, because oftentimes, as you've seen, they are not normal.